As of the end of 2022, I have ridden 1,230 different roller coasters across the world. 1,064 made of steel, 166 made of wood. In 2022, I rode 72 new roller coasters, and 6 of those cracked my top 100. Other coasters moved up as I got re-rides on them, while others moved down. This is the second part of a 2-part video series ranking my favorite 100 roller coasters in the world. This one covers the top 50. If you're interested in spots 100 through 51, I released that video yesterday. Now this list will only include rides I've personally ridden. This is why you won't see rides from places like China, South Korea, or Australia, as I haven't been there yet. I also need to note that I have not been on Hakuge at Nagashima Spa Land. That RMC was under construction when I visited the park a few years ago. I hope to make it back someday because that ride looks like it would have a chance to crack the top 10. This list will combine both wood and steel coasters into one big list. I placed rides assuming I'm in my favorite seat, and going by how the coaster is running in my most recent visits. I tend to prioritize rides with great airtime, strong pacing, and a beautiful setting. This list is all my personal opinion. I don't expect anyone to have the same list as me. When I compare two rides, it comes down to which one I have more fun on. If you want more in-depth thoughts on many of these rides, I already have separate reviews published for all but 4 of the coasters on this list. Also, to avoid being redundant, assume the rides are smooth in this list unless otherwise noted. Number 50. Osiris at Parc Asterix. This is my favorite B&M invert. It has such a unique layout in terms of theming, sequencing, and elements. The most striking thing for me is the airtime. There are several drops that offer airtime pops, and then the steep twisting first drop gives a shocking ejector airtime and lateral combination. Some of the inversions will also have you levitating out of your seat as well. Then if you want power, this ride has you covered with the turns that'll get your blood flowing to the feet, and some forceful inversions in the first half. And all of this is accompanied by some Montu-like Egyptian theming and trenches. Number 49. Joker at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. This may be the most underrated RMC. The first drop isn't straight like the other hybrids. It's a near vertical, twisting plunge with crazy ejector airtime and laterals. Then this ride has some of the best inversions of any RMC. The giant stall in particular stands out as you get sustained, inverted airtime, and some terrifying head choppers simultaneously. And the airtime hills also offer some thigh-crushing negative Gs. Some of the turns are pretty forgettable, but that's a minor issue. Number 48. I-Speed at Mirabilandia. This is basically the greatest hits of the US Intamin coasters. The LSM launch is a kick like that of Maverick. The giant top hat has some great ejector airtime like you get on something like Stormrunner. The Camelback is sustained ejector like their hypers. Then there's a wild lateral snap into the far turnaround like those transitions in I-305. Then there's an S-Hill with a strong ejector pop like the one in the Megalites. Then you also have 2 barrel rolls. The first has some serious whip and airtime like the Mosasaurus roll of Velocicoaster. The second has more hang time, but not as much whip. There are 2 downsides to this coaster. 1, the finale is on the weaker side. 2, you have hard over the shoulder restraints that can cause some headbanging if you aren't careful. Number 47. Maverick at Cedar Point. This coaster is such a diverse ride. The ride starts with an intense, ejector airtime filled beyond vertical drop. That's immediately followed by some low S-bends offering speed, laterals, and positives. Then you have a big airtime hill and some decent corkscrews. The second half kicks things off with a punchy launch in the dark. Then the second half has a few more airtime hills, and these 2 super snappy Stengel dives that violently contort the train. While the over-the-shoulder restraints aren't uncomfortable in this one, I wish this ride more freeing lap bars like the newer Intamins. Number 46. Silver Star at Europa Park. Let me preface this ranking by saying I've only experienced this coaster untrimmed. This was the case in both my fall and summer visits. That gave me a much more favorable opinion on this B&M Hyper than most. The outward leg has some really good floater airtime under these conditions. Then even the ride's detractors agree the second half is among the best of any B&M Hyper. You have some really strong airtime pops, a good helix, and a fun twist before the brakes. Number 45. Candymonium at Hershey Park. This is my favorite B&M Hyper in the US. This one has better pacing between the lack of a mid-course brake run and the improved speed over the elements. The first half has some very strong floater airtime. The second half wraps around the entry plaza. You get some sweet views while also getting thrown out of your seat a few more times. And this section hits harder during Candy Lane when the ride tends to go untrimmed. Number 44, Orion at Kings Island. This Giga Coaster has grown on me with each ride. It may feel an element or two short, but what this ride has is very good. You have a world-class drop with several seconds of strong sustained airtime. Then there are a handful of other hills with stronger airtime than usual for a B&M. It is very sustained. And sometimes, you're on your side like that hill after the Helix when you're getting those negative Gs. Beyond the airtime, this ride has amazing speed, some spots of solid positive Gs, and a great setting tucked back in the park. Number 43, Formula Rossa at Ferrari World. This is the best accelerator coaster for two reasons. One, that launch. This is the world's fastest coaster, and the hydraulic launch is incredible. It has a good initial yank, and then it hits a second gear halfway down the launch track that's breathtaking. The second reason this ride is so special is its length. Most of the accelerator coasters are over in a flash, but this one has nearly 1 minute of prime ride time. There are several floater airtime hills, and these big graceful turns showcasing the speed. This isn't the most intense ride beyond the initial launch. Basically, it's Top Thrill Dragster's launch, followed by Millennium Force, and that's more than fine by me. Number 42, Lek Coaster at Legendia. This is an incredible ride if you love positive Gs. I kept on graying out from the forceful valleys, and that initial sidewinder also caused me to lose my vision. Then this new generation Vekoma does several other things well too. There are some good airtime moments even with those restrictive vest restraints. This includes the bunny hills and that devilishly twisted plunge at the start. Then the inversions later in the ride have some good whip, particularly that corkscrew through the station. Number 41, Cyclone at Luna Park. This classic wood coaster has been imitated many times, but the power of the original has never been duplicated. The trains are the secret sauce. You have no seat dividers and a single position lap bar, so you are thrown around in every which direction. The back is the best seat for airtime. The bigger drops offer some aggressive ejector airtime. The front is the best for laterals. You are violently slammed side to side in each turnaround. Make sure to try both for the full Cyclone experience. Number 40, Balder at Liseberg. This Intamin prefab is repetitive, but I don't mind. This wood coaster is a series of camelbacks and bunny hills, broken up by turnarounds. Now those turns are admittedly weak, but every single hill has some very strong and sustained ejector airtime. I have not ridden a wood coaster offering a larger quantity of this type of airtime. This ride recently reopened from extensive track work, but I still found it super smooth when I rode it back in 2017. Number 39, Railblazer at California's Great America. The original RMC Raptor layout is one of the fastest paced coasters in the world. The train moves through the layout at cartoonish speeds. The first half has some insane airtime. The first drop, mid-drop, dive loop, and S-hill all launch you into orbit. Then the latter two airtime moments also throw in wild laterals as well. And you also get some good positives on the initial pullout and that far turnaround. The elements in the second half dial it back a bit, but they're still solid. This coaster has two flaws holding it back from a higher spot though. One, it may be the shortest coaster in this list. Two, the over-the-shoulder restraints are not ideal for an airtime-based ride. Number 38, Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. This is a mirrored version of Railblazer. At least when I last rode this one in 2020, I thought it was a little smoother and faster than the prior ride, which is why I give it a slim edge. It is also worth noting I have not yet ridden Stunt Pilot at Silverwood. This is a nearly identical layout to the prior two rides, just with a slightly longer train and some tweaked profiling, so I suspect it would have placed similarly. Number 37, Schwerdis Karna at Hansa Park. This was probably the biggest loser from the past year. While this is still Gerstlauer's best coaster by far, the ride was very shaky in 2022. I came off each ride with a headache, but it was worth it for a ride this powerful and unique. It just wasn't very re-rideable. The ride tells a really cool story, and there are some special coaster elements playing off that. Then the main layout starts with a massive twisting vertical drop with ejector airtime and laterals. Then you zoom through a layout offering a mix of speed, aggressive laterals, and airtime pops. If this ride were smooth, it would easily place in the top 10. Number 36, Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm. This CCI coaster was brilliantly designed. The first half has some larger hills with solid airtime, but this coaster ratchets things up significantly in the second half. The drop off the former mid-course is wicked ejector airtime. Then it feels out of control as you charge through the structure. You have amazing speed and near misses, plus a series of airtime pops and lateral jolts. And speaking of laterals, this ride ends with one of the most forceful helixes of any coaster. You are pinned to the side of the train for nearly 10 seconds. And this ride is still running smoothly 7 years after the major retrack by GCI. Number 35, Storm Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom. This RMC hybrid can run wildly different depending on the year, but it was flying when I last rode it in 2021. You start with a cool barrel roll down drop and a big camelback with several seconds of sustained ejector airtime. Then the second half is briefer, more violent pops of airtime, especially on that trick track double up. And for some variety, the 0G roll throws in some laterals and whip as you haul through it. Number 34, Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. This RMC feels like a more fleshed out version of Storm Chaser. The barrel roll down drop has a bit more power, and you have not one, not two, but 3 consecutive camelbacks with airtime matching that of Storm Chaser's second hill. Then the second half keeps tossing you upwards in the smaller hills, and there's the occasional inversion mixed in too. What keeps this ride out of the top 25 is the lack of speed compared to the rides ahead of it, but few can beat this one in terms of pure airtime. Number 33, Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. This Intamin multi-launch coaster gets better as it goes. The sequencing is phenomenal. The initial launch is slow, but it still has some oomph to it, and it's followed by a 0G winder with wonderful hang time. Then you go into the swing launch sequence. The acceleration is fine, but it's the airtime moments that steal the show. The small bumps give shocking ejector airtime, and the back spike gives some delightful weightlessness. Then the second half carries all that speed. You have a big top hat with ejector airtime and a breathtaking view. The big overbank offers a nice mix of airtime and laterals. The 0G stall has some inverted airtime, and the final turns toss you side to side. I was worried this ride would feel short, but it has a very satisfying length to it. Number 32, Flying Dinosaur at Universal Studios Japan. This may be B&M's most intense coaster. The start is downright insane. You have a super steep first drop with some weird airtime on a flying coaster. Then you have 2 of the most forceful elements back to back. You have this inversion that rotates you 540 degrees, so you end up on your back. You then get G's like a pretzel loop. And immediately after, you go into the actual pretzel loop. The second half isn't quite as extreme, but you still get some fun hang time on the slower inversions, plus some extra airtime pops. And this is all while flying above pathways and waterways. Number 31, X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain. This was Arrow's magnum opus. The original 4th Dimension coaster was ahead of its time between its scale and flipping seats. This coaster is insane. It starts with that incredible drop. It's nearly vertical, and the seats perform a flip at the last second. Then you have some of my favorite inversions of any ride. The first Raven turn offers strong positive Gs and very sustained airtime. The 2 camelbacks in the middle offer weightlessness as the track and trains rotate. The final Raven turn delivers crushing positive Gs. This coaster is bouncy, particularly on the outside seats, but few rides still terrify me to this day like this one. Number 30, Egenika at Fuji-Q Highland. This is S&S's follow-up to X2. This 4D coaster takes everything X2 does, both good and bad, and amplifies that. It's bigger, performs more flips, and has better pacing. X2's weakest spot by far is the far turnaround, but Egenika fixes this to have more speed and a seat flip. However, this coaster is rougher than X2, at least when I rode it in 2018. Although I haven't heard others say that beyond the group I was with, so maybe it was running rougher than usual when I visited. Number 29, Millennium Force at Cedar Point. If you love speed, the original Intamin Giga Coaster is for you. You need to ride this coaster up front. It is sublime rocketing through Millennium Island at such great speeds. While the individual elements may not match many coasters on this list, this rides more than the sum of its parts. But there are some great moments I want to call out. The first drop is one of the best at any ride between the view and airtime. The first overbank is one of the hardest grayouts for me of any coaster. And the remaining airtime hills offer some fun floater airtime. Number 28, Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. I cannot believe Intamin built a Giga Coaster like this. While Millennium Force stayed low to the ground, this one has the snappy maneuvers of Maverick. That profiling combined with the ride speed is ridiculous in the best way possible. The low turn after the drop is a serious grayout moment for most people. Then each directional change is so abrupt that they somehow cause airtime. Then you have some other underrated airtime moments, most notably the ejector airtime on that giant first drop, and the big camelback underneath it. I prefer the rides ahead of it that focus more on negative Gs, but I-305's raw power has to be appreciated. Number 27, Hyperion at Energylandia. This Intamin Hyper starts as an out-and-back coaster before transitioning into a twister. I love this type of layout, and the elements are excellent too. The first half has some strong and sustained airtime, particularly in the first drop and subsequent camelback. The directional changes in this ride tend to offer nice laterals and or good positive Gs. Then the second half has a series of quicker airtime bursts on the smaller hills. The one downside with this coaster is that there is an odd lull in the middle with a weak camelback and overbank, but everything else is exactly what I wanted. Number 26, Taiga at Linnanmaki. This Intamin feels like a cross of two rides higher up in this list, Liseberg's Helix and Universal's Velocicoaster. You have the varied layout of the latter and the setting of the former. Getting such a diverse layout that not only utilizes the terrain, but also offers some breathtaking views of the nearby city is truly special. This coaster has really strong pacing as it zips from element to element with no downtime. The launches are quite good, and there are several satisfying airtime moments, but the inversions steal the show for me. I love the hang time on that supersized stall, the 0G winder early in the ride, and the barrel roll right at the end. Number 25, Helix at Liseberg. This mock multi-launch coaster is located on a wooded hill in the center of Gothenburg. The sightlines are stunning, particularly at night. Then you have a really good layout too. It's so complete. Now the launches are admittedly weak, but everything else is elite. You have 7 inversions. Most are floaty and offer hang time, which is sweet with those lap bar trains. Then there are some powerful ejector airtime moments too, particularly in the big camelbacks. Number 24, Shambhala PortAventura. This is easily the best B&M Hyper. It's taller than most of them, and the ride is a series of spectacular drops, particularly if you're in the back row. Each has oodles of floater airtime. Combined with the long trains, this ride produces a rare stomach drop sensation I don't usually get on a roller coaster. Every hill has great airtime too. And on top of that, the initial pullout and far turnaround have great positive Gs, and you have a stunning view of the mountains and water throughout the ride too. Number 23, Wildfire at Kolmarden Zoo. I basically rode this RMC Woody in the worst possible conditions. It was a cool fall day, and I only rode it in the first 2 hours of the day, and I usually was the only person on the train, so despite it likely running slow, I still loved it. The start was one of the best of any coaster. You have a giant drop chock full of ejector airtime, a big stall hanging you upside down for several seconds, and a wild twist and shout. Then the middle has the quicker pops and floaty inversions other RMCs are known for. I did think the ride ran out of steam towards the very end, but everything that preceded it along with that setting made this ride worth the hours of public transit it took to get there. Number 22, Expedition G-Force at Holiday Park. This Intamin Mega Coaster is one of the best for sustained ejector airtime. Every single camelback and bunny hill throws you out of your seat for seconds at a time. Then you also have one of the world's best drops. That super steep twisting plunge delivers an incredible combo of ejector airtime and crazy laterals. And all this takes place in the woods. While I love the start and end, the middle section does have a series of turns and overbanks that are just okay. The rides ahead of it are more consistent. Number 21, Fury 325 of Carowinds. This is B&M's masterpiece. It takes the elements we love from their other Gigas, but adds extra length, and then you fly start to finish. That outward leg is a series of low turns, the wind will power blast your face, and the maneuvers also try to diagonally toss you from the train. The ride had plenty of airtime too. The final few bunny hills and the treble clef turnaround offer some really strong airtime. And then you cannot forget about that world-class first drop either. The sustained airtime is otherworldly. There is one hill in the return run that's a dud, and the helix is just okay, which keeps this out of the top 20, but everything else is elite. Number 20, Phoenix at Knoebels. What makes this coaster special is the restraints, or lack thereof. You have just a buzz bar and no seatbelts. So every airtime moment will launch you a foot into the air. It's incredible. You get airtime on every hill, and Phoenix gets stronger as it goes. The Double Down offers one of the most jarring airtime moments of any ride if you're in the back car. Then the final 4 bunny hills are one of the best sequences on any coaster, as you are slammed into the lap bar again and again. I always come off this ride laughing. The first few hills did seem to have a bit less power than past years of my 2022 rides, which caused it to slide down a few spots. Number 19, Boulder Dash at Lake Compounce. CCI did a fantastic job with this one. It's impressive they could build this ride on such a heavily wooded hillside. That setting makes this coaster special. This coaster's layout goes out and back, but the trees obscure what comes next and heighten the overall speed. Then the way this coaster changes elevation allows it to maintain its speed right up until the end. And there's plenty of airtime hills. It's mostly floater, but you have 2 ejector pops in the outward leg. Then this ride also mixes in some sneaky laterals. The first few elements in far turnaround all pin you to the side of the train. Then there are some subtle changes of direction between hills that give quick lateral jolts. I know this ride can get a little rough further back in the train, but it's just as special as ever for me up front. Then you also have the world-class night rides that vaulted this coaster into the top 20 for me. Number 18, Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. This is a unique RMC hybrid for several reasons. The biggest factor is the location on the quarry wall. You not only go up there, but you have 2 world-class drops going over the edge. The first drop in particular is my favorite drop of any coaster, between the ejector airtime, lateral kinks, and visuals. The ride also has several other strong airtime moments and a super floaty 0G roll for good measure. And these forces are heightened by the more comfortable Gerstlauer trains. Now I know some take issue with the slow section above the quarry. While you do have little speed up there, the elements are profiled in such a way that they either give it abrupt airtime pops or lateral hang time, so I stay engaged. Number 17, Coaster at Peony Playland. When I last rode this coaster, it was an even wilder version of Phoenix. You also had no seatbelts and an even smaller single position lap bar, so every airtime moment catapulted me a foot into the air. Then this one also had no seat dividers, so it also threw me side to side in each turn. But this coaster recently underwent a big refurbishment, and unfortunately, it received seatbelts. The uncontrolled nature is what makes this ride special. This ride will still have good forces, but it will no longer deliver the primal fear of my 2019 rides, so I suspect this will fall out of the top 25 when I get back on it. Number 16, Fly at Phantasialand. This prototype next generation flying coaster from Vekoma is a special ride. The way it blends thrills and theming through the entire layout is unbelievable. You fluidly fly through Rookburg. No coaster simulates the feeling of flight like this one. You have a seemingly organic flight path as you go every which direction. You have some stunning near misses, and the elements are quite good too. The turns and valleys of crushing positive Gs, especially further back in the train. It's one of the best coasters in the world for positives in my opinion. There are several bunny hills popping you out of your seat, which is a bizarre feeling in the flying position. You also have 2 floaty inversions, and last but not least, you cannot experience a launch in the flying position on any other ride. Number 15, Zadra Energylandia. This ground-up RMC has blistering speed. It feels like a larger version of Six Flags Great America's Goliath with a robust finale. The first half is sensational. The first drop is surreal ejector airtime plus scary head choppers. The giant turnaround offers strong positives going up and negative Gs going down. The stall offers nice upside-down airtime, and the outward bank turnaround is violent. Then the second half throws in 2 more inversions and some additional airtime pops, including this rapid S-hill at the end of the ride. Number 14, Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain. This is one of the more unique RMCs. This pseudo-Mobius coaster features 2 tracks side by side. This means you get to experience both tracks in a single ride, and if dispatches are fast enough, you also get to duel. The visuals when this happens are special. The downside to this setup is that you have a lengthy second lift hill halfway through the ride, interrupting the otherwise frenetic pacing. Those main sections are jam-packed with great elements. The blue side in particular has some very strong airtime start to finish, but the green side is the better inversion with the 0G stall, although the 0G roll on the blue side has some insane laterals. Number 13, Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England. This coaster has shot up my rankings over the past few years, and that has coincided with the new wheels that sped this ride back up to the early 2000s speeds. You have a similar layout to Hyperion, but I have a soft spot for this one because you have the enhanced visuals run along the Connecticut River and park midways. Then the elements really pop. Almost every hill has excellent ejector airtime, particularly the 4th hill, which is one of the best elements of any coaster. And the valleys and turns contrast that with good positive Gs. Now I know many hate the restraints, but I actually think they work well on this ride, for me at least, because they rest on my thighs, so my lap is exposed and really lifts upwards. Number 12, Skyrush at Hershey Park. It's impressive Intamin crammed a hypercoaster where they did, and that explains the brute intensity. This cramped setting leads to tight pullouts and turns high in positive Gs, and the airtime hills are quite compact, so you get major ejector airtime. But there are 2 other maneuvers I specifically need to call out. One is the first drop. It delivers powerful airtime over the top, but then there's a kink halfway down that springboards you even higher. I haven't experienced a drop like it anywhere else. Second, you have these twisted hills that offer some of the scariest laterals of any coaster, because these trains have very little sideways bracing. I know some find the restraints too tight. While they aren't overly comfortable, they only make a little contact with your thighs, and that heightens the ride's forces. Number 11, Shivering Timbers at Michigan's Adventure. This imposing CCI is nearly 1 mile long of pure airtime. You have one Camelback and Bunny Hill after another, each offering strong and sustained floater airtime. It feels like you're out of your seat more than you're in it. While you do not have any ejector airtime like the rides in the top 10, the sheer quantity more than compensates, and for some variety, the turnaround and Helix finale dish out some really nice laterals. Number 10, Ride to Happiness at Plopsaland Japan. This showed us what the Mach Extreme Spinner was truly capable of. This ride is mayhem. The vehicles spin at a good clip throughout, making each ride an element unique. The highlights for me are the inversions. They're some of the greatest of any ride. The Twisted JoJo roll out of the station offers extreme hang time, as does the super disorienting double dive loop later in the ride. That's my favorite inversion anywhere. The 0G roll is quite good too. Then the banana roll and vertical loop will mess with your sense of direction as you spin throughout them. Along with these inversions, you have some strong airtime moments. I particularly love the ejector airtime on that broken up top hat early in the ride. The ride did fall after some re-rides because I had a better grasp what was coming, and I noticed the lull before the second launch, but it's still a world-class coaster. Number 9, Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. This is a special hypercoaster. Morgan took an old Arrow looper and transformed it into an airtime machine. They kept the legendary second drop down the ravine, and I'm glad they did because it's one of the best drops out there between the length, airtime, and views. The rest of the layout was overhauled. You have some serious force in the subsequent valleys and overbank. Then the second half has some of the most aggressive ejector airtime of any coaster. It's strong on its own, but it's extra special with those roomy lap bars. It is shocking to have a restraint this minimal with airtime this intense, but that's why Phantom is a top 10 coaster for me. Number 8. Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure. This Intamin excels in every area. It's one of the few thrill rides that can incorporate theming not only in the queue line, but during the ride itself. The near misses as you weave through the raptor paddock in the first half are truly amazing. Then the second half is about the sightlines through the park, and these visuals are accompanied by masterful pacing and excellent elements. The first half is a solid launch and 2 inversions combining abrupt airtime with laterals. Then the second half cranks things up with some more intense airtime, particularly on the top hat and that twisted airtime hill. Then you have 2 more top tier inversions. The stall has some sweet inverted airtime, then the Mosasaurus roll tries to chuck you into the water down below. Number 7. Conda at Walibi, Belgium. This is Intamin's best mega coaster to date. It's a marriage of their traditional hypers with an RMC. You have a very similar twisting first drop to that of Expedition GeForce, and it's every bit as great. Then you have some large camelbacks and bunny hills to sustain negative Gs these rides are known for. Then you have the RMC-like elements with a large outward bank giving sideways sustained ejector, and a rapid series of airtime bumps on the way back to the station. Number 6. Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City. RMC's original wood coaster is relentless. This coaster is a giant airtime-laden drop down a hill, and then it rips through the rest of the layout. It's fast to begin with, but the speed is amplified by all the trees since the layout takes place deep in the woods. You get some powerful airtime moments, some conventional, and other times while on your side. The only time you slow down is during the finale when it's advantageous to do so. You have a double barrel roll while climbing uphill. As you decelerate, the hang time gets stronger, and this is a must at night because you can barely see anything back there. The only thing keeping this out of the top 5 is the ride's relatively short length. Number 5. Untamed at Walibi, Holland. This is the RMC with the most inversions. There are 5 of them, and they're all wonderful. The double roll at the start is my favorite. You have some ridiculous hang time and it's super disorienting too. Then you have 2 rolls with some more hang time later in the ride. The rest of the layout is a fast-paced barrage of airtime. The first half has some bigger hills with sustained negative Gs. Then the second half is a series of bumps in rapid-fire succession, and you have no time to recover in between. Now I do need to note that I've only ridden this coaster on days with heavy rain, so it's entirely possible it's running extra fast and intense. Number 4. Voyage at Holiday World. This Gravity Group wood coaster is a 3-course meal. The outward leg feels like a hypercoaster with the giant camelbacks full of floater airtime. The turnaround section is a chaotic blitz of airtime pops and laterals. Then the return run tosses you upwards and sideways as you barrel back down the hill. It's impressive how long this ride is without losing a beat. This ride is an endurance test in the best way possible. It's a smorgasbord of airtime through the woods. I just prefer the top 3 because they offer similarly wild rides, just with stronger airtime. Number 3. Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens, Tampa. This RMC hybrid conversion looks nothing like its predecessor. You have that imposing, slightly beyond vertical drop loaded with ejector airtime. Then you charge through a layout full of great elements. This has more intensity than the other RMCs between the positives and the valleys, whip on the transitions, and accelerated pacing. This rides airtime in droves with the elements like the giant outward bank, and then the reverse wave turn underneath the lift hill standing out. And you also have my favorite inversion in all of Florida with the death roll. It is shocking how quickly you rotate through it. I almost put this ride at the 2 spot, but the ride ahead of it offered way more length and I could not ignore that. Number 2. Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. RMC's original Hyper Hybrid may offer the most airtime of any coaster in the world, and almost every instance of it is ejector, and strong ejector too. The first half has larger elements with some fantastic sustained airtime, most notably on the big vertical drop, the top hat, and that incredible outward banked camelback. The second half feels like the smaller hybrid conversions earlier in this list, with the quicker spurts of airtime. Then you also have 4 inversions mixed in beautifully that also lift you out of your seat. And coming in at number 1 is Lightning Rod at Dollywood. This coaster checks all the boxes for me. You have a one-of-a-kind setting. It goes over a hill, and it's nestled in a wooded valley. Then you have flawless pacing. This coaster goes so fast that it feels like it'll tear itself apart, and the speed is augmented by the trees you whiz past. And the ride only seems to get faster as it goes, and every element works for me. The launched lift hill has some sneaky force to it. The first half has the sustained airtime, including on the wave turn and twist and shout when you're on your side. Then the second half is some of the most forceful airtime on the planet, particularly on that legendary quad down. That moment is a beautiful assault on everyone's thighs. Now, I know some criticize this ride for not being as fast as it was in its opening year, but I've only ridden this coaster in its so-called inferior state, and it has knocked my socks off each time. So those are my top 50 roller coasters as of the end of 2022. This is a stacked list, so there were some fantastic rides that couldn't quite make the cut. Let me know your thoughts on this list or any of the rides I mentioned down below. Just a reminder, this channel also has an Instagram that posts quite frequently if you want to check that out too. And there's also a Discord server to connect with fans of the channel. Links to both are down in the description. If you enjoyed this countdown, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.